Hey party people, this is your friendly neighborhood fashion design and illustration professor Zoe Hong, and today we are going to go over brushes, specifically watercolor brushes. I know there are some gouache artists who like to use acrylic brushes, but I prefer to use watercolor brushes because I use gouache super watered down, a little bit watered down, and opaquely, kind of like all across the board. And I also like to use watercolors and inks. I find that the gouache artists who enjoy acrylic brushes are those that use gouache more opaquely, way more often than I do. So if you're that kind of person, maybe you do want to go explore acrylic brushes. I, however, do not have experience with acrylic and oil brushes, so this is not the video for you. This is the video for people who are painting with a kind of watercolor and want more information on those kinds of brushes. As usual, this video is sponsored by a whole lot of nobody. If I show you the brush in my hand, I bought it. If I show you a product shot, it means I don't own one, so I don't have one to show you. I have one freebie. It's this one. It was a teacher sample during my pre-YouTube days. A disclaimer real quick, my expertise comes from fashion illustration and from years and years and years and years and years of painting 10 to 13 inch fashion figures. So skin, hair, faces, and lots of different kinds of fabric and textures. Go watch my illustrating specific textures series to see, in detail all the things that I paint. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do. That's where my expertise and my brush preferences come from. In no particular order, let's break down the different aspects of the brushes. First up, handles. As you can see, handles are all different lengths. There's no industry standard, but there's two basic categories. We have our long handles. People prefer long handle brushes usually when they paint on easels, because they're sitting further away from their canvas or paper, and so they prefer a long handle brush like this. People like me, however, I sit at a table, and it's a slanted table, but I sit at a table, so I'm much closer to my paper, and so I prefer short handle brushes. Here are a couple of brushes I like to use. Here's the handle. Whoa. Here's the long handle in comparison. I mean, a couple of these are super long. Like, look at this one. This one is very long, but still not as long as the long handle. And then I have a couple of these like teeny weeny babies. Let's talk shapes of the brush. 99% of the brushes I have are rounds. Okay, I love rounds. I think they're named round because they're round from the top view. Rounds are really versatile. If you get a larger size like this 12, you can do big washes, good quality rounds, keep a point. This brush is, oh snap, like 20 years old, and it still keeps its point, and so I can make precise marks. If you get a small round like this 4 and it keeps its point, you can do quite a bit of detail work before you reach for anything much smaller. Some brands use a category called pointed rounds. I find that if you just find a good brand that keeps its point, you don't need a pointed round. This is a silver black velvet, and it's brand new. It's never hit water. That's why it's all very stiff and pointy looking. And I don't know if they call this a pointed round, but this is what pointed rounds look like. They look, this one is also brand new, but do you see how much pointier the black one is? These are flat shaders, named such because look, they're flat like these. Flat shaders have the longer hair. There is a category of brushes called brights that are flat like this, but their hairs are shorter. I don't have any of those. This one was free, as I mentioned before, and I bought a couple of these to experiment with, but I have found that for fashion illustration, I don't use these very often. I liked them when I was Oh, you know when I use these the most? I use these in class when I was demonstrating more general illustration skills, like the ones I teach in my basic shading series. But I don't really reach for them when I'm doing fashion illustration work. This is what they call a liner. This is a size 4 liner, and I'm a little scared of this brush because the bristles are so long. I feel like I would lose control real quick. These are both Princeton 4050 series, the Heritage series, both size 4, but the top one is the round, the bottom one is a liner. Do you see the difference in the shape and the length of the hairs? So yeah, if I'm gonna need something of this size, I'm gonna reach for the round with a nice point, or maybe a 2 with a nice point, as opposed to this. Some companies also have a category called script brushes, where the hairs are really long, and that's even scarier to me. There are a few categories of brush shapes that I don't own because I've never really felt compelled to get them. But these are filberts, and they are flat with a round edge, and they're for wider strokes with softer edges. These are angle flats for sharp edges, tight shading, sharp corners, that kind of thing. Fans are for texture and softening. Mop brushes are generally on the bigger side. They're good for big washes. They don't have a nice precise point like rounds do. And so that's all they're for, is big washes. And if I want to do a big wash, I will just use my fattest round, which is a size 12. And it has a nice point. Let's say I'm painting a big ball gown. It's still a precise shape because it fits the waist and it's going to have a few tight corners. So I would rather use a big round like this and get the big wash, and then use the point to get in there at the waist or at individual drapes and paint those, as opposed to a mop. So again, nothing against these particular kinds of brushes. It's just I never felt like I needed them for the kind of work that I do. But you know, feel free to send me some and try to change my mind. It's cool. Sizes are pretty self-explanatory. You know, the smaller the number on the brush, the smaller the brush. You know, just like clothing sizes, the sizes are not exactly the same brand to brand, country of origin to country of origin. As you can see, these are all size 10s, and they're all slightly different in shape and size, even though they're all size 10 rounds. It's really not that big a deal because I really don't think you need a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. I use a 4 and a 12, I'm going to say like 75% of the time, and that's it. I'll use this little size 2 for details, and that's it. I have all these size 10s because I'm doing that brush testing video, and I wanted them all to be the same size because I'm going to do like a water holding test. If you want my recommendation, if you want 2 brushes, I would go for a good quality size 4 and a size 12. One for big spaces, you know, maxi coats, you know, all one color suits. And then I would get a size 4 or 5, something around there, for smaller things like faces, hair, collars, okay, small, delicate sleeves, that sort of thing. And then I would get a size 2 for sequins, beading, tiny details, right? You might be thinking that the smaller the detail, the skinnier the brush you'll need. And look at these. I call these the Zoe Hong Hall of Shame. They're my brush hall of shame. They're all terrible. They're all super skinny. This one is a 10-0 size. Look at that. It's basically 3 eyelashes grouped together. This one isn't bad. It's actually done quite a bit for me. But yeah, these really skinny brushes, they're all kind of terrible. I have yet to find a super duper skinny brush that works really well because they hold like almost no paint. This one, it's a synthetic, and it keeps a really sharp point, and so I can get all the little details in. So my recommendation would be to find a 2 or a 1 that really holds its point. And that is what is going to help you with the small details more than a 0 or a 10-0 or anything like that. Let's talk hair types. We have 3 categories in watercolor: natural, synthetic, and blends. In the natural category, we have sable. In the sable category, we have regular or red sable. And we have Kolinsky sable. Kolinsky sable is supposedly the king of all sables, the ultra luxe of all luxe. And it makes me laugh because none of the sables are actually sable, they're weasel. I believe that people like to call them sables because sable sounds luxurious. You think of sable fur coats, sable fur collars, whereas weasel does not sound luxurious at all. I actually don't have any regular sables. I don't know how that happened, but I do have several Kolinsky sables. These two are the Winsor & Newton Series 7 finest sable Kolinsky sable brushes. They cost $800 bajillion million each. I am slightly exaggerating. This size 3 is I bought these a long time ago, but this size 3, the smaller one, if you bought it today, it is $33 at Jerry's Artorama. And the larger one is a size 5 and it is $56. A size 10 is $299.99. I wanted to be clear in case anyone thinks I'm exaggerating. Anyway, these are super fancy schmancy. I bought them 700 years ago. I don't know why. I don't remember if, my teacher suggested them or I just grabbed them thinking they were really nice. I really do not remember. All I know is they're really nice brushes. I can include them in the future testing video if you like. Now, these look kind of sloppy and that they've lost their point, but once you wet them, they regain their point. Okay, see, they're wet now, and you can see, especially the 5, comes to a really sharp point. I am actually eager to test these out against a bunch of other brushes just to see whether they're so super superior and worth that kind of money. This is an Escoda Reserva Kolinsky Tajmir Sable made in Barcelona, and it's around 10. If you watched my art haul where I was talking about which of these brushes is $57, ding, ding, ding. If you guessed this one, I found this for slightly cheaper online, but let's be real, $50 for a brush. Can't really laugh at that. It is a beautiful brush. I'm looking forward to trying this out. So sables are supposed to be good for holding a lot of water or color, and natural hairs in general are supposedly good for holding more water than synthetics. That's something synthetics really try to overcome. The sables, they come to a nice point, and so you can make precise marks. Squirrel also carry water well, but they don't have a nice point, so they're better for washes. I do not have a 100% squirrel brush. I have this silver brand, their Black Velvet series, Squirrel Synthetic Blend. And again, I have not tried this out yet. I'm hoping that the synthetic part of this blend will help keep the point that squirrel by itself often can't. There are also goat hair, camel hair, pony hair, but those are rare, apparently not as awesome. I don't have any of those. I don't have any experience with those. My research says that it's really not that important that I try those out. All right, and then hog hairs are typically for oil and acrylic paints, so I don't have any experience in those either. Synthetics are great for vegetarians and people who don't want to spend that much money, but they're all over the place in terms of price and quality. These are Princeton Heritage Series rounds in 12, 8, and 4, and I have had these forever, and they have been my workhorses. I use them very often, and they're still in great shape and do me very well. Here's the thing, though. I am reluctant to recommend 100% something I bought so long ago. because I don't know what changes have happened in their factories, to the quality, to the company. And so I can't go be like, oh, go buy these immediately. They're moderately priced. They're really awesome. My point being, these are what I use. And so synthetics, just because they're synthetics doesn't mean it's bad. This is like a conversation we were having in our Facebook group. Just because a fabric is made with man-made fibers doesn't necessarily make it bad. You know, people have this negative connotation with these words synthetic, man-made, and it's unnecessary. It's kind of a case-by-case scenario. I also bought these 3 synthetics as part of my new testing video, and so I'm pretty eager to try them out. Some synthetics are specifically made to mimic a natural hair. This one is the Da Vinci Castaneo, and this is a synthetic Kazan squirrel. So it's made to mimic squirrel. It's made to be elastic and hold water. So I'm hoping it'll do both. These 2 are just synthetic. This one is a golden. This is a Princeton Lauren. This one was about $10. This one was about $5. This is Silver White, which is Silver Company's synthetics brand, or synthetics line, excuse me. The Heritage series was made to mimic sable. These are synthetic sables. Okay, so just because it says it's a synthetic sable doesn't mean it's a blend. Look for the word blend. These 2 are blends. This one is that squirrel blend that I mentioned before. And this one, oh my God, this is a well-loved brush. Had this so long. I still use it a ton. This is the one where the whole ferrule just popped right off during the middle of a video. I forget which video it was, but anyway, I have a hot glue gun, so I just popped this sucker right back on. But I bought this and I put it through the ringer. You know, here's the thing, y'all. Once upon a time, Zoe was a dumb student who didn't know how to take care of her brushes, and things like this happened. And this is why I make videos like this, to help you out. Anyway, this is a Winsor & Newton. I had to look up the item number to make sure, but this is a Scepter Gold Synthetic Sable Blend. This one, see, expressly has the word blend on it so that you know it's not synthetic sable. It's a synthetic sable blend. And this is a size 4, or at least I think so. And if you were to buy a size 4 today, it would be about $6, $7. They say the drawbacks of synthetics are that they don't hold enough water, but to me, I find that useful when I want to do detail work, because I don't want a lot of water gushing out of my brush while I'm trying to paint individual sequins or draw lacing or things like that. So I have these 2 synthetics, and they're my absolute favorites to do detail work. This one is a Simply Simmons size 4 round, and look at it. It's really great. It's very pointy, narrow. It's really nice for a lot of precision work. I got this in an old sketch box. I looked this up online. If you buy this by itself, it retails for about $3, and I think it's worth it. This, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Y'all know I'm so bad at pronunciations. This is a Camlin Pro size 2-0, although that does not look like any kind of 2-0 at all. This looks more like a 2 than a 00. This, so the first time I went to Tokyo, and the first time I went into Hokkaido, it was kind of like I was in this sort of like art supply fever dream. And I was just like buying all these things. Number one, whenever I travel, I try to buy things that I haven't seen in my hometown, things I don't see often. And these brushes definitely fit in that category. I bought this. It looked nice. The handle looked nice, which is nice. Because here's the thing, is like a lot of the time when you have these skinnier brushes, the handles are also really skinny. but this handle is really fat, so it felt like it would be comfortable to use while painting tiny, precise things. So I picked this up and I ended up falling in love with it. I am madly in love with this brush. I did a tiny bit of research. Turns out these brushes were originally made to paint miniatures, which makes complete sense to me because this one is really great for painting small details. I don't think I need a smaller one, but you know, if I saw one for sale, I might be tempted. This one is 600 yen, so that's about $6. So not bad at all. Really awesome brush. And I use this. I do not use any of these gnarly ass things. These two are kind of crusty, old, extremely stiff, scratchy. Can you hear that? Oil brushes, cheap ones, that I use to create textures with watercolor pencils. If you want to see a demo of that, go watch my illustrating knits video, which is in my illustrating specific textures playlist. You know, they're oil brushes, so they used to be super long handled, but I chopped them off with a saw. I have this toothbrush, very stiff bristled. You know, toothbrushes come in soft, medium, and hard. This is a hard bristle brush, and I use this to create speckles. You know, I put a little paint in here and I create speckles. This is great for tweed, and I have an illustrating tweed video in that same playlist if you want to see me use this toothbrush. This has never been in a mouth, by the way, as far as I know. These are what calligraphy brushes look like. I have this one because it was in an old sketch box and I've never used it. I might just try it out just to see if it's any fun. This one I have from freshman year of college. Okay, long story short.
A lot of art schools with fashion programs, if they have a BFA, they will have all of their freshmen take the same core studio classes. And because of that, they put together a kit, an art supplies kit of all the supplies they're going to use in those same 4 studio classes. And this brush was in that kit. I bought the kit, this is the kit.
Kept it because, you know, I don't throw away art supplies. Excuse me. I will donate stuff to charities, but I will never throw away perfectly good art supplies just in case I might use it in the future. So I have this. I don't remember ever using it, but whatever. I'm slightly an art supply hoarder. This is this is a finger brush. This is a fun little thing I got also in Tokyo at an art supply store called Uematsu, which is, the vibe is so completely different from Sakaido, but that store is also just epic levels of awesome. And this is a little cap, little brush. I've never used it. I keep meaning to, but you just stick it in your brush. And when you buy these, they come in the finger sizes. Okay, so you buy them according to the size of your finger. Paint. I really need to play with this. And then I bought a set of Crayola brushes. Dun, dun, dun. And I bought a set of Grace Art brushes. And these are for my cheap art supplies series. These were $2.70 for a set of 4, and these were $8 for a set of 12. So they're both about 68 cents a brush. Someone actually left me a comment saying these Crayola brushes are like just absolutely amazing for their price point. So I'm kind of like looking forward to that. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about how to wash and take care of your watercolor brushes. So let's wash this one. Can you even tell? But I got some blue paint on here. This is my favorite brush cleaner. And this is really widely available. It's very popular. You can use any other kind of mild soap that's safe for brushes. Don't use a really strong soap, and don't use hot water because they can cause some damage. Use cool to lukewarm water. Use a mild soap. This is the Master's brush cleaner and preserver, and as you can see, it's good for all kinds of paints. I even use this for my makeup brushes. This is what it looks like on the inside. So wet your brush, you know, rinse all that excess paint off, and then, you know, work some of that soap in there, and then just kind of work that soap gently, kind of work that soap into the bristles. Don't grind it up, but just get that soap all up into that business. Rinse it out. You know, I test to see if the water runs clear and there's no more blue in there. Just keep doing it until your water runs clear and you can wipe it clean. You want to gently squeeze out the water, very gently. Okay, you see some of the water drops on my fingertips. Gently squeeze it and reshape it into that point. And then you want to let it dry laying flat. You never want to let it dry sitting in a cup like this because you don't want water soaking in and into the wood. This is why you don't want brushes sitting in water soaking. You don't want brushes sitting in water while you're painting. Soap and rinse until the water runs clear. Gently squeeze out excess water. Reshape the point. Let dry on a flat surface. And only when it is 417% dry, you can store it in jars upright like this. I hope this video was helpful for you. Please give me a thumbs up. If it was, please let me know in the comments if you want that brush testing video. And, share, subscribe, all the ways you show me love. Drop all your questions in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.